All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan. I'm the pastor and executive director here. This is Carrie. She is the associate executive director here at Free. So good to be with you all on a Saturday night. To those of you joining us online, we're glad you're here. We're glad you're part of this community. And just to give you all a reminder, this is a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And what we do here is break the silence of addiction and create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. There's always one thing we don't do. And y'all, if you're online, you can shout it out. Put it in the comments if you want. Shout it out on the count of three. Fredo, count of three. 1, 2, 3.
We don't do shame.
We don't do shame. What a beautiful thing. But Carrie's going to tell you some other things coming up that you might want to know about. Take it away, Carrie.
Thank you, sir. If you are new with us tonight, we're glad that you're here. Please connect with us after. Just outside of these doors, connect with a staff member or a home team volunteer member, and we can get you connected with one of the welcome bags. Inside the welcome bags, you'll find some fresh roasted wagon coffee, along with some free swag and our Connect card. This Connect card gets you signed up to our newsletter so you can stay connected with everything happening in the community, all the different events we have, who the guest storyteller is. You can also do that going directly from our app. You can do the Connect tab. So get signed up to our newsletter and stay connected. We also have coming up on the day after Father's Day, we are going to have our 3rd annual golf tournament. So this is the reminder to get your golf team. Grab your friends, grab your coworkers. Perhaps you work at a company who can sponsor a hole. It's $250 per player, and it's $1,000 per team. And you can also have sponsorship opportunities. Like I said, there's different holes, different games that they play while you're out on the course. So you can get creative with you and your team. But please, it's the Monday following Father's Day, so get signed up. You can
And y'all, this is at Arrowhead Golf Course. If you haven't been there, it's a beautiful place to be. It's a beautiful place to spend a day. Raise your hand if you play golf. Okay, there's a few of you out there online. If you play golf, you can fly out to Denver and join us. This is the one annual fundraiser that we have, so I hope you all come. I'll be there. I won't playing. I'll be riding around in a golf cart, talking to people, saying hi, getting water for people, because, well, that's what I do.
Ryan can be your caddy. So.
Caddy, that's it. I need a new title.
Next up, we have some meetings that have been so successful here at Free that they're kind of branching off and doing slightly different variation. If you guys remember, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, Brian came up and kind of talked about his experience with NA and how this GIST meeting has slightly modified, and it is now an all-pathway recovery meeting. It's the same time and the same day, but it's on Fridays from 7 to 8 here at Free, but it's all pathways.
Yeah.
So
you don't have to be an NA, or it's for all people.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great community. And then the other one that was so successful, this one was so successful that they had to get a second night here. So this is the CODA for alcoholics. So this is codependents as well as alcoholics. And this one, there's one on Tuesday, one on Thursday. This is beginning July 8th. So again, get signed up on our newsletter, and or you can go to our website and you'll see all the different meetings of when everything starts. But this is from 6 to 7 Tuesdays and Thursdays, and the room does slightly change, but you can, Tuesdays in the big kids room, Thursday is in the prayer and meditation room, but it's such an amazing meeting that it got so big. So
Same thing,
come and check it out.
space.
Yeah.
All right, thank you,
That's
Carrie.
it. Thanks.
All right, y'all, the way we get started here at Free on a Saturday night is with celebrations. We start with the good. We lift up the good, a profound part of our time together. Maybe you're celebrating a sobriety anniversary or a birthday or whatever the good thing is, the new thing is in your life or recovery. Nothing too big or too small. We celebrate it all here, and God joins with us in the celebration. So if you have some good news to share, all you got to do is raise up your hand, and Matt or Renee will get you a mic. If you're online, drop your celebrations in the YouTube comments or the Facebook comments, wherever you're joining us from, and we will celebrate with you there. Let's take 3 minutes. This time is yours.
Sorry. My name is Jaslyn, and On July 18th through the 28th, I'm going to Cancun before I go back to school in August.
All right, we're going to celebrate that. Some rest and renewal.
My name is Layla. I am back at Free, celebrating 24 days clean and sober, and just moved into Oxford House this morning.
Way to go, Layla. Glad you're here.
I'm Jeffrey, alcoholic, and we haven't been here for 3 weeks, and so we really are glad to see you again. This is when we're celebrating, and I celebrated 6 months on the 15th of May, and then our youngest son graduated college last weekend.
All right, Jeffrey, man, all kinds of good news. Glad to have you all back.
Hi, my name is Kaylee. I am celebrating 1 year sober from alcohol.
Way to go. Congratulations. Fredo, I think you had one, didn't you? Well, you got to get a mic for this, though. It was important, just like Jeffrey's news was important.
I'm Fredo. Just celebrated 6 months on Wednesday from sober.
Way to go, Fredo. Fredo. Anyone else got some good news to share, big or small?
I'm Kaylee, and I want to celebrate that my son had his first T-ball game today. It was so fun to be a mom in sobriety and get to experience his joy and excitement, and it's a special morning, so thank you.
Yeah. Way to go, Major and Kaylee.
I'm John, and just celebrating another day sober.
Another day sober. Way to go, John. Always good to see you, brother.
Hey, I'm Ray. Celebrating with Fredo, our good friend of mine, and our guest speaker tonight. And also last week, I brought my best friend JT, and he brought his mother for their first time tonight.
Welcome back, JT and Mom. Glad to have y'all. You got 20 seconds left. Who's got some good news?
I got to videotape this since my daughter's at camp. Maggie just graduated from South High School, and she accepted at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee.
Way to go, Maggie!
And my nephew in Texas, he's a baller. He just made it to the state championship. Next weekend will be the state championship in baseball in Texas. That's a big deal in Texas.
Big deal in Texas. Way to go for your nephew. Thank you, Matthew. Renee, do you want to join me up here? I think Renee wants to. Renee doesn't? I wonder if Matt would. Oh, my wife. Don't forget my wife. You know, I was asking her about it last week because Tammy celebrated a birthday this week, and I thought about celebrating it last week, but that would be frontsies, so we don't do fronts. But Tammy celebrated a birthday on Tuesday of this week. Happy birthday, Tammy. She was here at the 5 o'clock.
Happy birthday to you.
We'll do it after the service. All right, Matthew, you want to take the first online celebration?
Jamie Delgado says, I'm alive.
Good to
Amen,
see you,
Jamie.
It's been a minute since I've seen you. I'm glad you're alive. Chad C says, celebrating my friend Fredo being there. Yes, Fredo's in the house. He's gonna be a guest storyteller.
Right over here.
Good to have you here, Chad.
Next. Mike Anderson says, celebrating that my wife is back at home, still a few weeks from being able to walk again, but home and on the way to recovery from the surgery. Mike, that's great news.
Yeah, we're celebrating that with you, Mike. Seth Michael Botts. I graduated seminary last Saturday. Congratulations, Seth.
Awesome, Seth.
We're celebrating you, buddy. See you soon, by the way. Thank you, Matt, for joining me with, you don't have shoes on. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Shoeless Matthew Naraki. All right, y'all, we are, we're at the end of this series. This is the 6th week of this series, the 6th and final week of faith and recovery. And tonight, let's explore the theme of you falling asleep and you waking up. Take a look. You know, as a kid, growing up in the Midwest, I had these really terrible seasonal allergies. Like, it would get so bad some afternoons I would just fall asleep. Like, literally, wherever I was, I would just fall asleep, which wasn't a huge deal until the fourth and fifth grade, you know, riding a bus to and from school, and sometimes those allergies would kick in, and so many afternoons on the way home on the bus, I would just fall asleep. And it got a little frustrating for the bus driver because I'd have to go up to her again and say, hey, I missed my stop. And she'd have to do the whole route. And then at the end, she'd have to drop me off back at home. And finally, she says to me, dude, is everything okay? Like, why do you keep falling asleep? Do you need to go get checked out? And I did get checked out. Mom took me to the doctor, and the doctor confirmed, yep, it's allergies, and you're just going to have to deal with it. But every time I fell asleep, there was this kid in the row next to me. Now, I cannot remember his name, but I see his face and I still hear his voice. He would wake me up with the same words every single time. He'd say, Canada, wake up, you missed it again. And you know, years passed by, and then I was struck with another allergy, another sort of illness. Many of you know about this one, addiction, alcoholism. It didn't appear until my life until about the age of 16, and it didn't really take off in my life until about the age of 20. And man, this thing, it totally put me to sleep. And I don't mean just seasonally. This thing put me to sleep for about a decade of my life. Asleep to my own life, asleep to the spiritual, asleep to the things that matter most. And recovery was that God coming along. It was God's voice saying to me, Canada, wake up, man, you missed it again. And listen, there's a lot of things, a lot of tragedies that can be said about addiction. And perhaps the greatest tragedy of them all is in your addiction, you are spiritually asleep. And all your running from God, you've fallen asleep. And all your running from your true self and your purpose and your calling, who you were meant to be, you've fallen asleep. And all your fear of facing life and everything it has to offer, you've fallen asleep. And I hate to burst some of y'all's bubble on this one, but you do know, even in your recovery, even in your healing, you can still fall asleep. You can be in the right place at the right time, doing all the right things, and in your complacency, you've fallen asleep. But let's talk about you waking up, because that's always the interesting part of the story. And see if you're with me on this one. It's usually crisis. That's the thing that wakes you up. And see if you're with me on this one. It almost always, your waking up experience, it almost always involves other people, doesn't it? Because see, in my experience, we cannot wake up on our own. If we could have, we would have, right? If I could have waken up on the bus before missing my stop, I would have done it. If I could have waken up on my own in my addiction, I would have done it well before a decade passed. If I could have done it on my own, I would have, but in my experience, waking up is always an act of God. And God is found in that crisis. God is found in those people who are participating with you in the waking up experience. And it's always interesting to me. I started noticing this theme several years ago in reading and studying the scriptures. If you were to open up the Bible and read it all the way through, you would see this theme of story after story. The main character is described as falling asleep and then waking up. And it's always, their life is always profoundly different upon awakening. And I think we have story after story because it's giving us this vision, metaphor for what it's like for you to spiritually fall asleep, what it's like for you to have a spiritual awakening, a waking up experience. It's all over the scriptures, character after character. You might remember a few weeks ago. In fact, it was the second week of this series. We looked at the book of Jonah, the Old Testament prophet Jonah, and we looked at forgiveness and why is forgiveness so hard. Jonah had a waking up experience and his life was profoundly different afterwards. If you're a bit fuzzy on the story, let me just recap it very briefly for you. God calls Jonah to go to Nineveh to go bring a message to those people in Nineveh, a message to turn their lives around. And do you remember how Jonah responds? He says, "No, God, I ain't going. I ain't doing this one. Don't want to do it. Maybe, God, you have forgotten how bad those people are. I mean, this is the capital of Assyria, and the Assyrian Empire is brutal. They're evil. They've been hurting my people for decades, and you haven't done much. Now you want me to go to them? I ain't going to do it." And do you remember what Jonah does? He gets on a boat, and this boat is headed in the exact opposite direction. And the problem is, a little bit into this journey, a major storm hits the seas. And all the sailors, they start freaking out. They start saying to each other, "Quick, call out to each of your gods, and maybe one of your gods can stop this storm and bring some calmness to the situation." Because the thinking in the day, in the ancient world, was if there's a major storm on the seas and you're in the middle of it, well, you've done something to make your God angry, and God is getting you back and sending this to you, and you've got to cry out to your God and give some sort of offering to get your God to stop the storm. And nothing is working. They're each crying out to their gods. And finally, it dawns on them, wait a minute, where's the new guy? Oh, where's that new guy, Jonah? I bet it's his fault. I bet it's his God that's doing this. Where's Jonah? Do you remember where Jonah was? In the midst of the storm, Jonah's down below, fast asleep. How many of y'all can relate to that? You caused a great storm in your life with your addiction, and in the midst of the storm, the chaos, you were fast asleep. What's going on here? Check it out. The ship's officer came and said to him, to Jonah, "How can you possibly be sleeping so deeply? Get up, call on your God." Jonah was running from his calling, running from his purpose, who he was meant to be and what he was meant to do. He was running from God. And maybe for Jonah, the thinking was, man, this thing you've invited me into, it's just too overwhelming. I can't do this task. I'm not cut out for it. Or maybe it was, God, the problem is you need to choose someone else because I am too unqualified for this situation. Pick someone else. Crisis hits. Usually crisis is the thing that wakes us up. Crisis hits, Jonah wakes up, and Jonah's story then begins, and it's profoundly different. And I want to remind you all, the problem isn't that Jonah didn't know God. No, upon awakening, man, the sailors, they start to grill him. And they say, "Jonah, why is this storm happening? Jonah, why is your God doing this? Jonah, what are you running from? And by the way, Jonah, who is your God?" Here's what he says to them. He says, "I'm a Hebrew. I worship God, the God of heaven who made sea and land." And that's interesting, isn't it? He knew God and he ran and he was so asleep. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I knew God and I ran and I was so asleep. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because maybe you knew God, but man, you had so much fear and so much shame. You started to run, and somewhere along the way, you fell into a deep sleep. Man, I knew God. I heard God calling. At the age of 5, I had a spiritual longing. By the age of 17, I knew I wanted to be a pastor, to do for other people what the church had done for me. And the problem was I had so much fear and shame in my life, and alcohol by that point had me by the throat. And what's it look like when you are sleeping so deeply, when you are spiritually asleep? I can tell you what it looked like for me. Do you know, early in my ministry, when I was a campus minister just across the street, down the street at the University of Denver, while I was in seminary, do you know I heard someone say last week, how many of us alcoholics, we dreamed of owning our own bar so that we could drink the inventory? That wasn't exactly my dream, but my dream was close. My dream was, how can I get the church into the bar? How can I start setting up ministry events in the bar so that I could drink the way I wanted to drink? And that's what I did. I was overseeing these students, these young people, setting up events and bars. Like there was this one time we were doing a fundraiser because we were doing a mission trip to Guatemala. And this fundraiser was to help students go on this trip to Guatemala. And I thought it was a great idea at the time. Deep in my addiction, I thought it was a great idea. Let's do the fundraiser. Let's do this event in the bar. And it was a bar just down the street. I won't tell you the name of that bar, but I worked with that bar owner to give us some drink discounts. And I remember that night, the early part of it I remember so clearly because I didn't intend to, but I got good and drunk, and I walked outside of that event that I was leading and hosting, and I walked out to the parking lot to smoke a cigarette, and I fell over, and I scraped up my body. And then I went back in, and someone shared with me that one of my students was in the bathroom puking their guts out because she drank too much. In charge of these students, being in ministry. Talk about shame. But see, when you're really spiritually asleep, here's what happens. I wake up the next morning, and you know what my first question was? Does anyone see what's really happening? Did I make it through? Did anyone see? Am I okay? Did I escape it? Did we raise the money? Oh, but then real crisis starts to hit because a couple of years after that, by this time I was serving in a local church as a pastor, and two of those students, they reached out to me, and they had just graduated, and it was like their lives were just beginning, and they said, hey, would you meet with us? We would just like some spiritual direction in our lives. Should be quite an honor. And I said, what a great idea. Why don't you come over to the house, and I'll get the grill out. We'll share a meal together. And Tammy was out of town. We had just our little 2-year-old daughter, Selah, at the time, and she was with me. And I didn't intend to get good and drunk, but I did some pre-gaming before they got there. And then as the evening went on, I got blackout drunk, and I don't recall much of that evening. What I remember is because I was spiritually asleep, but I physically woke up, and my first question was, oh my God, where's my daughter? Where's my 2-year-old daughter? And so I go into her room, and she's sleeping in the crib. And then I pick up my phone, and I call those two students. And I said, oh my goodness, what happened? They said, I don't know. We wanted to ask you the same thing. We didn't even know you were drinking, but then you started slurring your words and you passed out, and we couldn't wake you up. And they said, we were scared. We didn't know what to do with your daughter. Do we take her with us, or do we leave her here? And we just decided to wrap her up and put her in the crib. And then they said to me, Ryan, we're worried about you. And I started waking up, because you do know waking up, it's a process. It doesn't happen just all in an instant. Sometimes it's a process. And then a few months after that, on Christmas Day, this was all in the same year, Christmas Day, my sister says to me, Ryan, I don't want you coming around anymore because I don't want my kids to see you like this. And my first thought was, me? Come on. And I started to wake up just a little bit more because it's a process. And then 2 weeks after that, I had to come face to face with the reality that I was losing my family, the thing that I valued most. Tammy had come to the end, and it came with her saying, Ryan, what are we going to do? And I started to wake up even more. And that day, I got sober. But when you get clean and sober, when you get into recovery, you're still in the waking up process, and you're a bit groggy, you're a bit fuzzy, and sometimes it takes some years to fully wake up. And do you know those voices for me? My wife, those students, my sister, they were the voices saying to me, Canada, wake up, man, you missed it again. They were the voices saying to me, how can you possibly be sleeping so deeply? Get up, call on your God. And I did that. I didn't intend to do it, but it's all I had left. In the kitchen that morning, January 7th of 2013, all I could say was, God help me, God help me. God help me. Sometimes that's the most beautiful prayer you can offer. And in looking back at the crises, think about the crises you have experienced. Stop cursing the crisis. God can be found in that crisis. And when that crisis strikes, ask that crisis some of the hardest questions. Ask that crisis, what are you teaching me in this moment? Crisis. What are you waking me up to? What do I need to be awakened to in my life? And what happens when you start to do this, be careful, because you might start to see that crisis through the lens of grace. And you do know the whole waking up experience, you waking up is at the centerpiece is grace. God doing for you what you couldn't do for yourself. I mean, you think about your waking up moments. You didn't get there on your own. You didn't wake up on your own. If you could have, you would have. And I want to close with this story because, man, this is one of the most fascinating stories we have in the scripture. It comes from the New Testament book of Acts. And by this time in the New Testament, the Apostle Paul, he's traveling around from city to city. And he arrives at this particular city, and Paul, like he does, he decides to give a sermon to the city. And the problem with this sermon is it was apparently really, really long. The text says it went all the way till midnight. And check it out. Acts chapter 20. Poor Eutychus. Because Eutychus is seated in a window. Was a young man named Eutychus, who was sinking into a deep sleep as Paul talked on and on. And maybe some of my sermons have seemed to go on and on, but to the best of my knowledge, I have never killed anyone with one of my sermons. Sorry, Eutychus. Finally, Eutychus, fell sound asleep, and he's in the third story window and dropped 3 stories to his death below. Now that's kind of sad, isn't it? I mean, think about it. Eutychus is in the right place at the right time, seemingly doing all the right things. And sometimes in your life, you can be in the right place at the right time, doing all the right things, but you start to get a little drowsy. And then you fall deep into a sleep. And I could ask y'all, have you ever had those days? Have you ever had, for some of y'all, I would need to ask you, do you ever have those weeks? Or do you ever have those months where you say, man, I just don't feel it. I'm doing the right things. I'm at the right place. I just don't feel it. And what's it look like when you don't feel it? Well, the good is hard to see. But the negative is really easy for you to see. Do you ever get to that place? Oh, yeah. Do you know, 2 weeks ago when we were in Panama, I told y'all about Tammy and I's Panama trip last week. We were celebrating 20 years married and spent 10 days in Panama. And on one of those days, I got totally stuck up in here. Oh man, I was so stuck up in here. On one of those days, I started saying to myself, because the problem was we went to Panama during rainy season. Every day during rainy season in Panama, it rained about starting at 4 o'clock, and sometimes it would just be a light rain, but sometimes it was like a torrential downpour, the kind of rain that actually comes up because it's bouncing off the ground. Sometimes it would last for an hour. Sometimes it would last all the way through the evening. And here I am during one of those torrential downpours, and I start getting in this conversation with myself. This vacation sucks. Man, this is stupid. Why did we even choose to come to Panama? We should have went somewhere else. Why did we choose to come to Panama at this time? We should have went during the dry season. Why did we pick rainy season? Can I tell y'all where I was as I was having this conversation? I was sitting on the front porch of this beautiful cottage that we had in the beautiful mountain town called Boquete. I talked to you all about Boquete last week. It has some of the most beautiful scenery on the entire planet. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen in the world. This is what I'm overlooking. This is stupid. Why am I here? Do you know, 1 hour prior to that, we were hiking in the rainforest. Someone said, you got to do this hike, and we did this hike. It was just the 2 of us hiking through the rainforest, and about an hour in, we arrive at this most marvelous waterfall. Oh, this is stupid. Why do we even choose this vacation? Why am I here? Now, I should tell you this. It was only 1 day out of the 10. Just one little day, which is not bad statistically. That's only 10%. But it does remind me that about 10% of the time, I can spiritually just fall asleep. What's it look like? What's it look like for me? It's when I'm far from gratitude. And I start with all the things I don't have rather than the things that I do have. It's all those moments where I get a little grumpy because I cannot see the good in people, and I'm slow to give grace to other people, but I'm quick to lash out on those people. It's all those moments where prayer and inviting God in and thanking God and acts of kindness, those are not initial impulses, those are last thoughts. Am I the only one that battles this? I'm not alone. But the truth is, we have to remember, you can be years into your recovery. You can be stone cold sober and fall asleep. You say, well, I'm going to meetings and I'm connecting with my recovery. I even help other people and I just don't feel it. And Canada, wake up, man. You missed it again. Do you see? And instead of focusing on what you cannot feel, maybe try focusing on what you can feel. Amen. Do you know this is a spiritual awakening that we're talking about here? This is your life we're talking about here. And there's a book called The 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. Highly recommend it. And the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, they define a spiritual awakening for us. And I think it's one of the best definitions we have. And it's only a couple lines. Check it out. When a man or woman has a spiritual awakening, this is page 106. When a man or woman has a spiritual awakening, the most important meaning of it is that he or she has now become able to do, feel, and believe that which he could not do before on his unaided strength and resources alone. Stop saying, oh, I just don't feel it. Because if you are a person in recovery, I would encourage you, take a moment and look at your life. What are you able today to do, feel, and believe that which you could not do, feel, and believe before? And look at that gift you've been given. Look at that gift and let that gift transform your mind during the 10%. And I will close with this, because speaking of a gift, I've got to tell you about how the story of Eutychus ends. Because Eutychus is in that third story window. Listen to that very long and drawn out sermon, and he falls 3 stories to his death below. And sometimes when you are so spiritually asleep, you'll tell yourself that you are too far gone. You'll tell yourself the story is over. But, very next verse, Paul went down, threw himself on the young man, and put his arms around him. And I think he started shouting, "Don't be alarmed. He's alive." You see those moments when you are asleep and your complacency. You're all right. You're all right. God's got you. And I'll tell you, this is the truth. One of my favorite things about the recovery community, this community, one of my favorite things is recovering addicts and alcoholics and recovering loved ones of addicts and alcoholics. They are by far the best people I've ever encountered at going down and running to the suffering and wrapping their arms around the suffering and proclaiming to that person and to the rest of the world, don't give up yet. Don't give up on them yet. Don't give up on her yet. She's still breathing. There's still life. The story isn't over. Hope is still alive. And do you know that's what Tony and Terry did for me? Late that evening, met with them at a coffee shop, and y'all, I was so asleep. I'd fallen into a deep sleep. I was as good as dead, and all I had was, God help me. And they started sharing with me their story about how they got sober. And then they introduced me to a group of people and introduced me to a way of life that allowed me to encounter the God who brought me back to life. You see, you're not feeling it? You need a mindset shift? Start with that question. Who are the ones who came down to you? Who are the ones who wrapped their arms around you and spoke a word of hope? Don't give up yet. Don't give up yet. You're still breathing. You're still alive. You're still here. There's still hope. Who are those people? You see, have you fallen asleep? Canada, wake up. Man, you missed it again. And even there, even in those times, God meets you exactly where you are. So I want to invite you to take a moment and reflect. What is the waking up experience for you? What's it like? What's it been like? What do you need to be awakened to in your life? Who are the ones who grabbed you and put their arms around you and spoke that word of hope? This song is called Don't Give Up on Me Yet by Jonah Cragen. Take a moment and reflect.
It's a good one, right? Is this working? Hi, friends. Welcome back. If you are new with us, you should always know that the second half of our service, we always bring a community member up into the living room to share their experience, strength, and hope. Our next guest storyteller just this week celebrated 6 months of continuous sobriety. And what was so amazing about this story is that he already does exactly what Ryan was talking about going to those deepest, darkest places and already helping the next person there, because he knows exactly what that looks like and feels like, because he was once there too. He is an amazing human being, and I cannot wait for you to hear his story. Please help me welcome Fredo up to the living room. good sober, don't you, Fredo? Welcome back. Thanks for being here. I do want to start with a little bit of a backstory because what I find so fascinating about your backstory is you hear this often. So many people are like, well, I came from a good home. I don't know what happened to me. I don't know how I ended up this way. And you had said that you had lots of family support and that that you came from a loving family. And yet, I think you used the word either rebellion or defiance. You were a little bit spicy and kind of went out and did your own thing. Can you tell us what that looked like?
Yeah, I mean, I had a good family, and I don't know, just when those teen years came in, and it was like, yeah, it was a whole different story. I just started just not listening, got expelled from school. I ended up going to prison, ended up doing a 8.5 out of 10-year sentence in prison, came out worse. So, and I just got more deep into alcohol and then more into drugs, just losing my family and just not listening at all. And I just did my own thing, and the whole thing was I can do whatever I want, and just nobody's gonna tell me what to do, and just how it is. And just my doors started closing in with my family, and had my daughter, and she's been with me since this journey. The thing is that she's been with me with this journey even when I was in my addiction, so I was affecting her life personally and my life, and I didn't really think about her life also, so right after that, I mean, I OD'd in 2022, got through that, and then I went to treatment, got out of treatment, and then I ended up moving with one of my girlfriends. She was here before. I brought her a couple times down to Free, and decided to say I lost her in November 10th. So I was at a hotel with her, and I was just in our addiction. And the crazy thing is, the guilt. The biggest guilt that I have about that is that I introduced that to her. So we were getting high together, and I was at a motel in Lakewood, and basically she OD'd on me. I ended up going to the store, grabbed something to drink, came back, and I opened the door and I saw her on the floor because there's like a little piece that's between the bed and the wall, and she was like in the floor, so her arm was on top of the bed. So I think that she just kind of fell out, and she fell on the floor, and she was trying to get herself up. So right after that, I froze. I freaked out. I didn't really know what to do. So I ended up grabbing her, giving her CPR, Narcaned her, and just her color started coming in, but I couldn't get her. I couldn't help her. I couldn't survive. I freaked out, and that's the biggest freakiness that I have. I mean, that was the scariest moment.
But that still wasn't enough that was not your final wake-up call.
Oh, no.
And I know when Ryan was talking about that, like sometimes it takes a little bit of a little couple more nudges, of like a couple more shakes to be like, hey, are you done yet? Are you done yet? And so that sobriety date is about a week later, right?
Yeah, she passed away November 10th, and from November 10th to November 26th, I ended up burying her, and it was not a good ceremony. It was pretty hard. I was just starting just shooting up fentanyl, I started shooting it up. I just didn't really. I was not phased. It was like a very dark moment for me, and it's just like a very indescribable feeling. It's crazy, and it's just I felt, and then finally. I just told my daughter a couple days before I went to treatment, and I told her, this is it. I can't do it, and I'll see you later.
And I know, so thankfully, so since that day, you had entered into treatment and you've been successfully, you said that you had a different moment, like a different waking up where you knew that you couldn't go back. But I wanted to specifically talk about, because you had said that after her passing, all of the guilt and the shame of just even what you had done to your family, what you had done to your daughter, and then again introducing her to drugs, right? Like, how did you start learning to live with that while sober?
I just started like just going to I ended up going to a program, and I really started working on myself. I really stop and really start thinking like, what can I do to get these feelings out? You know, just trying to get this thought of guilt, shame, because trust me, it was bad. I couldn't just even talk about it. You know, like last session, it was like I kind of stopped myself before I even told a story. So it's like the farthest one I've known, especially like in a nice crowd, but like. When I went to therapy, it took about maybe 30 seconds before I started talking about it, and then I just broke, you know. So a lot of hard work, and really the biggest thing was forgiving myself for it, you know, and saying, okay, well, you know, yes, it happened, but what can I do to better myself and overcome this?
And what was interesting, it was in April, I believe, when we had our last round of baptisms, and you got baptized here at Free. And what was so beautiful is Ryan had actually asked you at that time, like, hey, would you tell your story? And you were like, nope. And then we had a mutual friend who, when we were looking for a guest storyteller, she was like, I know the perfect person. And when I called you, you were very happy, and you had a very easy yes. What changed?
What changed was it's it's crazy how you work on yourself, you know, and you started realizing who you are, and you really start digging really deep what's in your mind, what's bothering you, what's really affecting you, what's causing you to make decisions that you're making, you know, and I was just tired of it. I was tired, very, very tired.
And then to further on Ryan's quote there of the 12 and 12, what today can you do, see, and feel that you didn't think you could before?
Trusting just my therapist, and then just trusting myself. And having confidence in myself, and thinking that, you know, and having just that feeling that, okay, well, I can accomplish anything I want, you know.
And you don't have to do it alone, right? You have a beautiful community.
Definitely.
You have your family.
Yeah. You know, this is the biggest thing. You know, I first started coming here about 1.5 years ago, and this is where I came in. Like, this is where I found my community, you know, with you, Ryan, you know. I was received here with open arms, even in my hardest times. You know, like Ryan mentioned last time, like, you know, I was in that corner back in November that I was lost. I was really didn't know what to think, you know, and you know, Ryan just, I don't know, I'll keep coming here, you know, and then his word is just everything about this whole community is what making me stronger. You know, just knowing that I know where to go or who to call in case something happens to me, or if I'm feeling this type of way, you know, I'm not alone. You know, I'm not alone. That's the thing.
And then yeah, right? And what I love is even in 6 months' time, you have already given back so much. And what you do today, can you tell us a little bit of today, what your life looks like, and what do you do now to help give back to those who were once just like you?
I'm a peer navigator, Second Chance Center.
Can you tell us what that is?
It's a Second Chance Center is a reentry program. We help out homeless people, people coming out of jail, prisons, And it's just pretty much people that are in their addiction. We help them out with sober livings, detoxes. Just try to give them resources that that we have out here. One of my main big job is since being in recovery, I've met a lot of people in recovery and resources that I'm giving that back to the people that need the help. And whatever that I know, information that I know, I give it to them, and just to help them out and just bring them back.
And what I love too is similar to what you were talking about with Ryan when you were sitting on the couch when we were together. You told a story that you see people now who come in and you had either used with them or you had known them from the streets, and they don't recognize you because you look completely different. What is that like to look at them and to know where you are today, and how do you offer them hope?
The thing with going back to I've met a lot of people out there when I was getting high. They're like, oh my God, like you blew up, because I mean when I first went in, I was like 130 pounds. I was 130 pounds and unrecognizable. And now it's like they see me, they're like, oh, like you look good, you look happy, you look like I'm always playing around. I'm a very happy, joyous person, and mostly they feel comfortable with me because I treat them like people. I treat them like I'm still one of them, And I tell everybody, I'm like, hey, I was in your shoes, guys. I've been there, so I know how it is. I know how it feels when you need some help and you're asking for help and you don't want help. And I mean, I'm sorry, you don't want help. And you can't get it, or you're just too ashamed. You just can't do it. So I give them that helping lend of hands, like, hey, man, look, let's do this. What do you need? What can I help you in getting your life back together? So that's the biggest enjoyment that I get out of my job, that I can help out people that I was out there with, that I was getting high, selling drugs to, So, I mean, it's amazing. That's the satisfaction I get out of my job.
And speaking of that, can you tell us how to connect with you? And I do have the slide this time, so this will be up on the screen.
You can reach me on my email, or you can call Second Chance. I'm off of 1391 Delaware Street in downtown. We offer services, like I said, for homeless. If you're homeless, if you're just barely getting out of jail. I also, we offer services like if you go into court and you needed somebody to talk on your behalf. That's what I do also. I help you guys go there. And whatever programs that we have classes. We have CBT classes. If you're doing the groups and stuff like that, I go in and I go record with you guys and say, hey, look, this is what he's doing, and so this is pretty much what I do. So I mean, you can reach me there at my email, or even call Second Chance in downtown, and you can get connected to a case manager there too.
And you will stick around when we're done, right? And
yes,
you can, if you have any questions or you want to talk to him directly. But in closing, to the person who is still out there, perhaps they're joining us online, and they're even too shameful to walk through the door, and they just really believe that if you knew this one thing about me, that I'm going to be the one who doesn't deserve forgiveness, or the thing that I did was so bad. What can you say to them to even begin to believe that they too can be forgiven and have some hope?
Believe in yourself, love yourself right here, and believe it that you can do it. Believe it that it's not whatever you're going through. That it's just for now. It's just a little bump in the road. Pick yourself up. You know what I mean? If I tell everybody, if I can do it, you guys can do it. And just you got to put in the work, and believe in yourself and love yourself.
And be willing to ask for help.
Exactly, that's the main one right there. Ask for help. It's okay to There's this is about the recovery community, is that we're so big that that we can always come to us. Come to us and just talk to us. I mean,
And if we don't know the answer, we'll help you find someone who has
exactly.
the answer. That's the great thing about this recovery community, is there's really help everywhere. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, man.
You're very welcome.
You know, Fredo, did you mention his eyes and smile this service, or was that last service? I'll mention it this service because, listen, y'all, when he came back in November, I remember seeing you sitting on the couch, and you, man, you were like a broken man, like the rest of us coming in, and your head was in your hands, and man, you weren't looking good. And so when we talk about what can you do, feel, and believe today, you can smile today. There's joy in you today. You can greet people. It's this amazing transformation that happens, but we got to pay attention first to the small things that happen. Thank you, Fredo, for sharing your story with us. It was such an honor to baptize you back in April. And let me say one other piece to y'all. You know, Tammy and I, we were talking this week, and Fredo's story reminded me of it. Tammy and I, we started talking about how many people since we've started Free, how many people we've lost in this community. And the truth is, in the recovery community, here at Free, we will lose people that we don't even know. I mean, they'll die and we don't hear about it, because what happens in addiction is you start to disconnect and then you're isolated. And then the sad truth is some people, they die alone and we don't hear about it. I tell you that to say, one, Fredo, I know how hard that story was for you, the shame it created in you of finding your girlfriend and being in that hotel room. But November 1st this year is on a Saturday, and it is All Saints Day. We've never done All Saints Day here. It dawned on me this year, we're going to do All Saints Day. If you don't know what All Saints Day is, it's a Christian holiday where you remember the saints in your midst who have passed. You recognize, honor them, and we're going to honor those people who've been part of this community in any shape or form that have passed. And I say that to you to say, Carrie is keeping a list of people, because we'll need help creating this list. If you know of names, if you want them honored and remembered, we're going to read those names here November 1st. I know it's a long ways away. Kira is going to have the sound bowls here that evening. It's going to be a beautiful evening. We are going to remember and remind ourselves we don't do this journey alone, but we do remember and we do honor those who've gone on. Yeah. So get those names to Carrie, get those loved ones to Carrie. We'll start creating a list, and we have a few months to do it. All right, y'all. The way we close here on a Saturday night is with what we call heartaches, similar to celebrations but different. Because maybe you're carrying a burden and you've been carrying it for some time. You've been trying to carry it alone, and you ain't cut out to carry it alone. It's why you have community that Fredo just talked about. It's why we have a God who hears the cries of the people. So Matt will have a mic on this side. Renee will have one on this side. If you have a burden, you need some prayer, some lifting up, some encouragement, we'll just speak those words into the mic. If you're joining us online, put those heartaches in the YouTube comments or Facebook comments, and we'll heartache with you there. Let's take 3 minutes. This time is yours.
My name is Layla. If we could please pray for Selena Campos and her family. Alicia Campos passed away May 19th, and her services are Monday, and so this is a really difficult time for them. So if we could lift them and their family up in prayer, I'd appreciate it.
All right, prayers for them. Thank you for mentioning them, Layla.
My name's Brenda. Last couple weeks, I have a friend who is kind of in the thick of it in a hotel and went back. He's just got some situations where he has to go check in at a county for a court case, and decided that the time going up to that, he's gonna go hit it hard. And so just kind of hoping that we don't lose him in this process, and that at some point he does have that aha moment. So
the waking up. Thank you, Brenda, first for them. Any others? Big or small?
My name's Ron, and I would ask for continued prayers for my daughter Layla, that God would continue to show her the way and she would seek His strength to stay on the right path. And I'm so proud of her.
Yeah. Continue prayers for you, Layla. It's so good to have you here. Thank you, Ron. Anyone else? All right, thank you, Matthew and Renee, for passing some mics. Matt, you want to join me up here again? Got one shoe on this time. What kind of madness is this?
Tom O'Connor says, our 4-year-old pup passed away this morning. Oh, man. He had cancer and we had no idea. Please pray for my kids. Not only the kids, but to you, Tom, and for all that is involved there.
Yeah, glad you're here tonight, Tom. It's good to see you, brother. Jamie said, I asked for prayers for all the children with addicts, parents, and still lost parents. Yeah. Jamie, thank you for that. It's interesting, Jamie mentioned that, because I was looking at notes from 5 years ago. I used to, when we were in our old location, I would keep all the prayer requests. I'd write them down as people said them. And Jamie, every single week, Jamie, you mentioned those still suffering, and you did it again tonight. It's like here we are 4 or 5 years later. Thank you for mentioning them. Very important one. Thank you, Matt, for being up here with me. And listen, y'all, if you have been impacted by this mission of breaking the silence of addiction, if this is your home, your tribe, your people, your community, well, you should know that we rely upon your generosity here. And I know many of you give generously. You've made it a spiritual practice in your life. You've made it a sacrificial practice in your life. And I hope to remind you all often, even if you're not giving here at Free, please do give somewhere, because you'll realize that giving changes you. Please remind yourself it's not all yours, that there's a source to it all, and giving is a great way to remind yourself of that. But if you do want to give here, and we are greatly appreciative of it, there's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can download the app, Free Recovery Community. It's free to download. All of our content's on there. Guest storytellers are on there. There's a giving button. You can give one time or set it up to do weekly, monthly, however you want to do it. We're grateful for all of it. You can do the exact same thing on the website, freerecoverycommunity.com, and there's a giving kiosk for those of you in person just outside these doors and just outside the back doors for cash and checks for those of you people. And there is the Kind kiosk. It is a one-tap system. It's a very easy, simple, safe way to give. Check out the Kind kiosk if you want to give that way. We're really grateful for it. Fredo, one of the things I've noticed is you've been coming with your daughter lately, and I remember the first time you brought your daughter, how proud you were of that moment. Jazz and Fredo, you want to join me up here for the closing prayer? Sorry to put you on the spot, Jazz, but man, to see families in recovery, families get to come back together. Dads get to get their daughters and sons back, and it's a beautiful thing. Well, you don't even have to say anything other than read the prayer with us and just be up here in presence. And I would invite you all to just kind of open up the hands. It's just a simple sign of openness, of Spirit moving in our midst. Maybe it's God waking you up to something in your life. What do you need to be awakened to? And if you've never read the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, there's a page in there that talks about what we do upon awakening. This is on page 86. If you don't know this prayer, we'll pray it together. It goes like this. God, direct my thinking today so that it be divorced of self-pity, dishonesty, self-will, self-seeking, and fear. God, inspire my thinking, decisions, and intuitions. Help me to relax and take it easy. Free me from the doubt and indecision. Guide me through this day and show me my next step. God, give me what I need to take care of any problems. I ask all these things that I may be of maximum service to you and my fellows. Amen, and grace and peace to you. See you next time.